bizarre figures from last year who had one of the highest completion percentages of any fullback in the Bundesliga. He's as Dustin put it, is he suddenly Philipp Lahm in the body of the guy manning the counter at your local electronics store? So pretty fun stuff there. In the center of defense, they had Roman Bregerie, who filled in for the now Hoffenheim player Benjamin Hubner with 8 clearances, while Marvin Matip had a really tough day. Got beat a couple times for the Bobby Wood goal, and then once by Kostic, who just ran past him in the 21st minute that led to a big chance. So we'll see where Ingolstadt will have to do, but encouraged by them. Roger is the usual stuff, and even Alfredo Morales, who is one of the worst players in the Bundesliga last year, did pretty well getting onto a header and almost scoring. So the expected goals are 0.3 for Hamburg and 1.2 for Ingolstadt. So despite a really good first half for HSV, they were kind of almost lucky to not lose this match towards the end. So my Hamburg prediction of finishing 6th is not looking so great, but it's only one match, so we can sort of move on. So we do. So stop me if you heard this one, but Schalke are getting hyped up by all the podcasts, all the previews, because they bring in a new coach, a new sporting director in Christian Heidel, who are promising to change things up. They sell the big talent in Leroy Sané for a ton of money, reinvest it to bring in some young, talented guys like Breel Mbolo, some veterans from Sevilla like Koke, and then take some chances on some guys on loan like Baba Rahman, and then they disappoint. Of course, that's the Schalke style. Yeah, the Royal Blues did this again, losing to Eintracht in Frankfurt at the Commerzbank Arena. Did they start Franco di Santo up top? Of course they did. I mean, why not? It's Franco di Santo. I mean, what could possibly go wrong as the right winger in the 4-2-3-1? Are we sure Marcus Weinzierl is a good coach? I mean, really, Franco di Santo is a right winger. So it's no surprise that Schalke managed 11 shots, only 6 of them from open play, but somehow getting 3 of their 9 shots inside the box on target, which is pretty atrocious. The one notable one was Lukas Radetzky, the Eintracht keeper, made a monster save in the end to deny Hintelar, which at that point the game really should have been over, because Eintracht came out like gangbusters and probably should have been up 3-0 in the first 15 minutes, as Ralf Beerman made a big save because Naldo, who had a horrible game, let Alex Meyer find Mijat Gacinovic, who basically barely missed as Junior Caesaro was scrambling there. And then there was another really big chance where the Schalke keeper came up huge against the former Gladbach striker, Branimir Hrgota, who played Meyer through with this nice sort of aerial chip a few minutes later, but Fairman was there. Helvides and Naldo were scrambling, and they had a terrible game. They combined to make one tackle as a center back. That's not really what you want to do. So do you remember when Schalke's defense was supposed to be fixed after everybody destroyed Joel Matip and said Roman Neustädter? Both of these guys are now gone, one to Liverpool, the other to Fenerbahce for being atrocious. So, I mean, well, the transfer window's still open, and I hear that Nice is a lovely beach town. I mean, they got Dante there, so maybe Mr. Naldo can move there. No, just kidding. I mean, I'm sure Naldo's going to be okay. The best defender was Junior Caesara, who ironically was directly responsible for basically letting Alex Meyer, the Fußballgott, outmuscle him for the first goal, and then gave away a PK in the second half, which Meyer then promptly missed. But at least Caesara looked like he was alive, with 4 tackles, 4 interceptions, even though that activity was sometimes counterproductive. They also threw on their new lone player, Nabil Bentaleb from Tottenham, and then they also got Baba Rahman in the game as the sort of CDM to replace Denis Aogo, which is the left backs playing as the CDM role. Schalke are missing Leon Goretzka through injury, and then their third summer signing also came on, which is Breel Mbolo, who somehow managed to get 19 touches in 45 minutes, which is one less than Lord Franco di Santo. At least Bentaleb got 22 touches in 17 minutes, so that's a positive. Baby steps for Schalke. But I mean, seriously, arguably the most disappointing Bundesliga debut for that club. For Eintracht, actually, Gacinovic was somebody who emerged late last season, got a couple of chances under Niko Kovac with his speed, and he was also very lively. And probably the craziest stat of the week is that he's the Bundesliga leader with 17 tackles won, which is something that you wouldn't expect from somebody who has his physique. Sabo Chusti supplied the assist to the Meyer goal, and he's still sort of the key playmaker there. A nice development for the Adler is that Branimir Hrgota looked pretty good in the debut, and it looks like he's going to take over from Haris, the Lord of this world, Seferovic. They're still missing Mark Stendera, who is out with an ACL, but are they really missing him? Because he wasn't really that good last year, and the Eintracht defense was very stout with David Abraham, who had a monster game with 95% passing, winning 7 aerials and getting in 7 clearances with 4 interceptions. The other Eintracht players are the sort of loan projects. So the Chelsea loan defender Michael Hector got sent off again. He did this against Magdeburg in the cup, so sort of twice in 1 week. Poor guy is on his 13th loan spell, so maybe you can excuse him for being a bit rash, but he got sent off in the 80th minute, and the Eintracht were forced to hang on to the win. Guillermo Varela, who's on loan from Manchester United, was really good with 6 interceptions, and then Omar Mascarell, who's the Real Madrid player, played in defensive midfield, had 4 clearances. The expected goals were 1.3 for Eintracht plus 1 penalty, so 2.3. And then 0.9. The expected goals come, of course, from Michael Cayley, the great soccer statistician who you can find at MC_of_A. And you can also listen to him at the Double Pivot podcast. So great game for Eintracht. Let's see what happens to them as we pick them to struggle against relegation, but maybe not. Then again, it's just 1 game. Another really relegation-threatened team was Darmstadt, who basically played up to our expectations as Köln dominated them completely, winning 2-0 on 21 shots to 12. Poor SV 98 had 5 new starters in defense and 8 overall, as only Mario Vrancic, Jerome Gondorf, and Marcel Heller survived the mass exodus over the summer, which also had Dirk Schuster leave. They replenished them with a couple of loan players in Laszlo Kleinheisler from Werder and Hamburg's Lord Schwenschlippach, the first of his name, who unfortunately both of those guys contributed with 0 shots despite playing all but 6 minutes and combined for 67 touches and got 0 key passes while losing the ball 6 times. And adding to that insulting stat line was former Eintracht player Anis Ben-Hatira, who also lost the ball 6 times. So not great if those are the guys you're getting on loan, and they're arguably taking away from an already terrible team in Darmstadt. So the Lilies are struggling. The other major problem was the positioning, as Gondorf and Vrancic pushed way too high up the pitch, leaving the back 4 who have no chemistry, completely exposed. It's basically the Mark Wilmots Belgium level coaching with Nainggolan and Witzel in the Euros, and you all know how that worked out. So that's probably enough about Darmstadt. Let's talk about Köln. Köln had 3 guys with 5 shots each: Anthony Modeste, Artyom Zrudnevs, the Latvian who came over from HSV for free. He looked rejuvenated, created chances, and even hit the post. And then Leo Bittencourt, who looked like Leo Messi, the former Dortmund player. Jonas Hector was the one who led them in key passes with 4. No surprise there, because he was in the top 10 with key passes, just like his teammate Marcel Risse, who got the opening goal for them. Probably the greatest sign for the Billy Goats is 16 shots from open play. That's basically elite for anybody, let alone Köln. So Peter Stöger, the coach, should be ecstatic, even if it was against Darmstadt. So, but getting 12 shots from inside the box, it's excellent. I mean, we saw that earlier. For example, Bayern got 22, but I mean, to get 12 the Billy Goats, that should be fantastic there. Defense was excellent with Sørensen, who usually is very combative, won a lot of tackles, impressed at right back, and then the center back pairing of Mergen Mavrai and Dominic Marot cleaned up the mess. Unfortunately, Dominic Marot suffered a rib fracture and is now out for 6 weeks, which has led to some speculation on Salif Sané from Hanover potentially joining, which is, a little side note. It's kind of crazy that Salif Sané, who was one of the better center backs last year, despite playing on a horrendous team and is right in the air and can play CDM as well, is still in Hanover. Don't know how nobody signs him at like 5 or 10 million. But they also have Dominic Heinz, who's a young and up-and-coming player and should be a good replacement. So Köln are looking pretty good. The expected goals were 2.3 for Köln and 0.4 for Darmstadt, and lots of big squares and boxes in the very close to goal, which is a great sign. So moving on to our next game, Borussia Dortmund opened their season against Mainz, and they should just give Thomas Tuchel the coach of the century just for turning André Schürrle into Andres Iniesta. I'm kidding, of course, but the German international, who managed 26 key passes all of last year, put up 6 along with 7 shots against Mainz, his former team, on Saturday in front of 81,000 and more at Westfalenstadion, which is now masquerading as Signal Iduna Park. Schürrle found Aubameyang 3 times. The most obvious one was the great crossfield ball that landed on Oba's head to open the scoring up in the 17th minute. In general, the revamped Dortmund side look much different now. They rely not so much on penetration, struggling there with more of a wing-heavy individualistic approach, with Schürrle kind of drifting inside into the half spaces, playing some key passes there, and then putting Ousmane Dembele, who had a field day in terms of dribbling, tormenting poor Daniel Brzezinski, another Challengers podcast favorite, the bro. And then Leon Balogun, who a Nigerian, who had a great sort of interview on Twitter. I encourage you to check that out, where he had no idea who poor Dembele was, and just was crazy about him. So Dembele finished with 8 dribbles, but unfortunately lost the ball several times, and he's still pretty raw. But it's super scary that if his first touch, which isn't so great so far, and his decision making and passing improve, I mean, basically, I think those are still sort of average to below average. But you can just beat 3 guys at any time. So it was nice to see. But Dortmund overall, I would say struggled. And the other culprits are Shinji Kagawa, who looked pretty ineffective with only 27 passes, despite playing 9 or 10 yards closer to goal than last year. And similarly, the midfield double pivot of Sebastian Rode came over from Bayern, and Gonzalo Castro looked horrendous. They were really good at retaining possession. They both had high completion percentages, but they were completely disinterested in trying anything ambitious, or they weren't allowed. But they were mostly passing backwards. And there's a really cool stat in Dustin Ward's StatsBomb article where he talks about how much Rode passes backwards. It's almost like Wayne Rooney-esque. Tom Payne, who does the tactical analysis for Spielverlagerung, pointed out that as soon as Julian Weigl came on for Castro in the second half, within 1 minute, he picked out a pass that carved up the defense and led to a great chance on the left side. So hopefully Weigl can recover his fitness. He joined the squad late, and but he's going to be integral to Dortmund's build-up. But for the most part, the Dortmund build-up was Marc Bartra passing to Socrates, who had the most forward passes in the first match day with 49. They also were the highest combination to each other, but it was basically Bartra to Socrates to Rode to Schmelzer, and maybe even Felix Passlack, who looked actually excellent and might be giving a run for Piszczek's money at right back. Dortmund had 74% possession, but only their expected goals was only 1.0 and then 1+1 for the penalty. So they're